Each human reality, called Dasein, this is Heidegger's term, the great philosopher, in my opinion, must carry his own cross. To meet with Thanatos, the death process within himself, and win the right at his own Golgotha to be the phoenix and rise from the funeral of his ashes. But when he rises from the funeral of his ashes and spreads midnight wings over the empty desert, searching for tomorrow, the desert's cold and empty. It's a long, 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 perilous fight. He doesn't rise from the funeral of his ashes, dying his own death in glory. He's not a martyr. He's not a noble person. But as he's carrying his cross, and he has to carry his own cross, it becomes heavier and heavier as he's moving toward Golgotha. And his detractors and mockers down through the years are now lined up to accuse him, to mock him, to caricature him, to ridicule him as he's moving up to Golgotha. And each step becomes harder and harder and heavier, and the mocking and the ridicules are coming in harder and faster. And he's got to have built himself up to where he has enough hard bark on him, and he's tough enough to carry his cross. He can't be embarrassable or sensitive, because the things that he's going to be accused of will expose him. The stereotypes, the characters, bit by bit, the emperor's clothes come off. And when he reaches Golgotha, that's when he pleads his case before Thanatos, which is his own death instinct. He's pleading his case. He's trying to justify and defend himself as he's being heavily accused. But he himself ultimately must be his own accuser. He must be his own prosecutor and his own defense attorney, his own judge and his own jury, ultimately. When he gets to Golgotha, everything the mob said about him, the past, his adversaries, his social performers, that confronted him in an arena which he thought was fair. He thought he had a right and entitlement. By comparing himself to others, he finds he never had any entitlement. He finds it never was, and it must never be fair. It's competitive, ruthlessly competitive, and he wasn't ready for it. And so he has regrets. But the problem is the burden of the years are closing in on him very fast as he's pleading his case. Now we're going to take a sip of my good coffee and we're going to go on. Everybody has to live in their own skin. Each has their own. None has the time. Unless they take Dasein doesn't have the time. Dasein, human reality, makes the time. And then has to choose to take the time. And then comes the question, what's the payoff? What's in it for me? And you've got to answer that question. It's all sales. It's all negotiation. It's all entertainment out there. It's all showmanship. It's all the church of the transmutations. That means getting very, very clear like an MRI. A high quality MRI. Where am I vulnerable? And he has to, what he sees himself and what they out there, his accusers, his mockers, the other showmen, his tormentors. C, those two have to be on the same page. When he looks in the mirror, he has to know what he sees there. He has to know the difference between what's inside and what's outside. His regret should be, I didn't do my 50% as much as I could have. I didn't get in the shape of my life and then some. I didn't become formidable. I didn't earn the right to have a presence and be respected and credible when I speak. Finally, if you're not getting what you want, you're getting what you deserve. Ultimately, it comes down to that. But when they talk about take responsibility, getting your own self-support, self-reliance, these are just abstract terms that mean absolutely nothing. To find out what that means, it's an experienced definition. You'll find out what self-responsibility, what courage, true grit means out there in the arena bit by bit as you're confronted. It's easy for me, the short, small stranger with a big moon face and lousy proportion of big fat belly to sit here and pontificate. It's easy for me. At this point, I'm not in any physical pain. It's easy for me. I'm sipping my coffee. I'm in reasonable comfort. But when you get out that arena, when you face the hawk on a cold, brutally cold night, you got hours and hours of cold to get through. On a park bench, it's cold out tonight. That changes the dynamics entirely. Then your guanis start to get soft, my friend. Fear starts to set in. The uncanny terror of the uncanny sets in. And the desire to get back into that circle of certainty built up on delusions of grandeur, phony expectations, but trying to propitiate the gods for your favor, to give you a hush, to give you a break. And the failure to ask yourself the right questions, and becoming a victim of cultural hypnosis, the marketplace, the media, and becoming seduced into living your life vicarious pretense through hero figures and project away all your power. The question your stranger's asking today is, how do I win? Bit by bit, the right to say, today, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my own ship. Easier said than done. How do I clean out the Aegean stables of all the garbage, like Pearls calls it, in and out of the garbage pit. The garbage can, in and out of the garbage can. This takes a lot of time, but the sign doesn't have the time. That's the problem. Thanatos is leaning on me. I don't have the Thanatos is a death instinct. I don't have the time. I'm begging for the time. My Faustian deal would be this. I would give the world for the power, for the brute power to put muscle and power and strength to look like a gorilla, big old gorilla, for his strength, for his power, for his presence. And let my social performer, my other half, the mansion on a hilltop, have all the women, all the other accoutrements that we count as a victory in Caesar's world. I'd rather have the power, the brute power, those heavy-duty, powerful joints to drive heavy iron. Punching power, grabbing power, balance, coordination, that type of a thing. To fight back hard. to have an aura that says, just like the Hulk, step wide of me. You better show me respect because you won't like me if I get angry. To have that kind of presence, that's the Faustian deal for me.